Testing. 1, 2, 3. This is Stephen Kramer for another trial, this time a little bit more into content. I've taken some suggestion from my children as to how to set up the room a little better and the video a little better. I still have things to work on, but let's focus on the content. For today, I'd like to talk about creativity. First, let me start with the nature of the universe. The universe is made up of small particles, atoms, and subatomic particles that have combined together in a dizzying array of different patterns. Let me focus on the patterns, not the particles. Patterns large and small, atoms, molecules, large molecules, super large molecules, proteins, DNA, cells, multicellular organisms, bacteria, fungus, worms, insects, reptiles, mammals, trees, environments, ecologies, patterns within patterns. And within these patterns within patterns, life flourishes, taking the high intensity energy from the sun, diluted to a usable concentration as it spreads through space, and transforming that energy into a complex and a wonderful complexity of patterns. And the patterns, living and non-living, big and small, interact and form new patterns. Clouds, rainforests, monkeys and parrots, glaciers, tundra, rivers, salmon and brown bear. Patterns, living and non-living. Humans, us, have the ability to sense and interact with patterns on many levels. A baby seeks out mother's milk. Sleep comes at night, and the day invites us to be active. We imitate those people around us. We smell and taste good and bad. We respond to music and voices. We seek touch and warmth. All patterns. Our nose is an interesting organism. It has a multitude of receptors, each shaped to fit, like a lock in a key or a hand in a glove, with a portion of a molecule. As complex molecules are carried by the currents of air into our nostrils, they impact against these receptors, trapped by the moist lining in the nose. And the complex molecules, tumbled this way and that, have portions that fit against this receptor or that receptor. And when they fit, like that key in a lock or that hand in a glove, a signal is sent. And as the array of receptors match against the different portions of the complex molecule, a pattern of signals is sent to that portion of the brain that has been trained and created to recognize those patterns of signals. And we smell. We smell the scent of food, the scent of another person, the scent of grass, the scent of musty papers. We recognize those things as the complex molecules are lifted from their sources by air and wafted to our nostrils, then fitting into these receptors and signaling the brain, which recognizes the smell. We recognize all sorts and patterns, not just with our nose. We see patterns with our eyes. We hear sounds and interpret them. We touch and know hard or soft. We are able in our minds to respond to those patterns. Store a replicant of the patterns, call it memory. Compare them to other replicants, other memories of past patterns, and project those patterns into the future or fit them against what happened in the past. And in our minds, we combine patterns. We can superimpose patterns. We can staircase patterns. We can chain patterns. We can break patterns into smaller patterns. Then recombine those fragments. This all happens without thinking as we overlay one memory with another. Or we can make it intentionally by forcing the juxtaposition of two thoughts. Or we can just let the thoughts and memories run into each other, letting the patterns of our mind just idly crash like waves upon a shore, and forming new patterns, perhaps by erosion of memories, as the memories leach out from the shore into the ocean of other memories, or perhaps as they water a seed of memory and it grows. How our minds are organized often encourages certain types of pattern storage and rearrangement and pattern building. Perhaps someone with a musically tuned mind captures the patterns of music. Some individuals with such a mind may store them exactly. Some individuals, perhaps inexactly. Some individuals can combine different fragments of music into one whole. Other individuals can fragmentize complex music. Certain individuals will take different patterns of music they explicitly remember and patterns of music they don't, or patterns in the sounds of the world around them, or patterns in the very structure of the brain itself, and combine, refine, and create a pattern. Perhaps we can call it new, because that combination may not have been heard just like that before. But each musical fragmented pattern came from somewhere, some pattern elsewhere, and has been combined with all the other fragmented patterns into this new creation by the pattern that is the creator's mind. And so creativity works. In science, where theories combine elements of patterns observed with elements of mathematics, which is a pattern of describing what is observed, with the elements of the scientist's being, his mind, his soul, his heart, created by molecules interacting with other molecules in a great pattern of patterns, reacting and interacting with the patterns around it, out comes a theory. Same for painting, for engineering, for cooking, for living, for teaching, for imagining the future. All patterns taken, fragments of another pattern, combined in some way by a pattern of cells in our minds, perhaps with a choice as we look to lever and push one pattern against another, and we mesh it all together into a larger new pattern. Patterns. Patterns that interact with us, our senses, our minds, are taken and fragmented and twisted and combined and come out sometimes new and fresh, sometimes a repeat of what has gone before, but always created. Yep, we could teach computers to do the same. They will transmogrify these patterns that we put into them differently until we teach them to imitate us better. Pattern creation is actually fairly easy. We do it naturally. But what about good pattern creation? The kind of patterns, creativity, that inspires, that causes people to seek it out, or to pay huge sums of money for it. Well, that is a subject of another talk. See you then.